Okay, welcome to Financial Algebra, you guys. Today, what we're going to do is I need you to answer the poll, and then we're going to pick a student and use that pod, one of the student pods, to answer the question that's in green at the top. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to read an earnings statement and to calculate the predicted annual tax withholdings for that statement. Also, the success criteria is to read and analyze an earnings statement, predict the annual taxable earnings of federal tax liability. And then we're going to use that information to predict if the person's going to get a refund or if they're going to owe taxes when tax season is due. Okay, so go ahead and answer that poll, and I'm going to give you only like 45 seconds to do so. And then that poll, we'll talk about the answers to it after we talk about the discussion question. It's in the PowerPoint that I upload. Seems forever when you really time stuff. Okay, so you guys both picked, it looks like the third one. And then like I say, we're going to go over the answer when we do the PowerPoint, which is right after this one. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at the tax season discussion. Tax season, what do you understand about what it means to get a tax refund or to owe taxes? I have a typo in there. Gotta fix it. So think about it for a minute and then type what you think tax season and refunds and owing is. And if you don't totally understand, that's okay. Then, just write what you think. There aren't any right or wrong answers if you don't know. Okay. So it looks like you're both done. And so Allie said she thinks that tax refund is receiving back what they've taken from your paychecks. And then Miriam kind of said the same thing. It's getting back money that's been taken from your paychecks throughout the year. How much money are they taking? Do you guys know? Depends on how much you make. Is that what you're going to say? Okay, cool. Good, and it is. It depends on how much you make. So the lower you make, the less of a percentage that they take, and the higher you make, the more percentage that they take. And so let's go look at one of those tax tables that we have. So in the lower right corner, you can see, I'm going to make it big so that it's not lower right corner anymore. It's kind of like, whoa, it's not doing what I want. Oh, there it goes. It's just delayed. So you can see, like in this particular tax table, which is actually a couple years old, if you made less than $14,000, then the federal government takes 10%. If you make between 14,000 and 56, it takes 10% of the first 14,000, which is 1,400, and then above that number, it takes 15%. So that's what the more you make, the more they take. It's called a graduated tax rate, because as you get more, it gradually gets bigger. Cool. So what I want you to do is I want you to take over one more pod. So so you can notice that Miriam's totally disappeared. So if you'll take over just one more student pod, because I don't want you to have to delete what you just wrote. I want to kind of like memorialize that forever. Okay. So now we're going to talk about, this was the poll question. And what answer did you guys pick? Let's do this. We got it right on here. Why is that? Draw. Okay. Perfect. So this is the one that you guys picked, was this one. Anybody want to know, say why they picked that one? What was your reasoning behind it? Why did it ring true for you? Okay, so it stated that, like, you could tell that the 20% was somewhere in that function. Yeah. Okay. Allie, was there a reason why you picked that one? And Central can't answer too. Okay. And actually, now now you're going to change your mind? Can't change your mind. Oh, you want to do the last one? Okay. Is there a reason why you're thinking of changing your mind? I need to make that bigger. Just seems more accurate. Okay. So when we're talking about, you know, something is 20% off, I think of, okay, well, I need to pay my 80%. And so, yeah, I like the third one. It shows that we're taking, say, 100% minus 20%. So you're probably recognizing that conversion for that route. And then, do you see the tax in there too? So this one tells me that whatever's going on over here, we're now going to calculate our tax on it. That's what the 1 plus that. So yeah, so that one's right. And also, Allie, this one's right. It's cool. That one's right, because if we look at it, what that one calculates first is we take our amount that we have, then we add our tax to it, and then we say, you know what, we're only paying 80% of the whole thing. So that one's right as well. And then if I were to, this is a super cool thing, if I was to use a cool calculator, and I was to take all of this stuff here, and I plug that into a calculator, I actually get this number. I get 0.86. So in net effect, actually, any answer was right. Or if you picked them all, then you're super right. So they're all right. It's just different ways to represent the same information, kind of depending on how you think about it. And so that's what I did with that one. Okay, so what I want you to do is, you can see the earnings statement in both of them. And I want you to look at it and just take, 30 seconds and look at it carefully. And then I want you to tell me what you've noticed or something you noticed. Okay, so what is something that you noticed just in that earnings statement? Just, anything. What is something you noticed?
She has $11.60 of deductions for the Medicare tax.
Okay, and how do we calculate Medicare tax? Do you remember?
I
Okay, but yeah, I mean, that's a good observation. Medicare tax is, remember, it's 1.45. Do you kind of remember that?
a little bit.
Okay, and so that's why it is such a small amount. So this is 1.45%. Allie, how about you? What did you notice? Yeah, so the Social Security tax, and just remembering that this one is 6.2. Oh, I don't think that yellow worked very good. Can you see the yellow on there? No, I didn't think so because I have a hard time seeing it. Sometimes when I look at somebody else's computer, I can tell. Okay, cool. All right. So, so those were just some of the things that you noticed. A couple other things that I want to point out is I want to point out what the pay period is. Okay, so that's a January 6th through January 17th. Can you tell how long that pay period is? Like, remember when we talked about weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, semi-monthly, all those other things? Can you kind of tell what one that one is?
Weekly?
It's a little bit longer.
Bi-weekly.
It is, it's bi-weekly. Because what it is actually, it's from your Monday and then it follows on the Friday. So even though it looks like it's only 11 days, it's actually 10 work week days. So this, I'm going to write bi-weekly. Good. Miriam, did you notice any, or not Miriam, Allie, did you notice anything else? Okay. In this particular unit, we start to talk about a couple of things. And one of them is we talk about our taxable status, our tax status. And there's a couple of them. There's married, filing jointly. There's married, filing separately. There's single, and there's like head of household or something like that.
Unfinished account.
Okay, we're good. And so those are your filing statuses. And this, if you look at the tax one down at the bottom, you can see that, what one is it?
Marital.
Yeah, it's married, and so they're filing together. So it depends. Sometimes it depends on when your tax rate is going to be a little bit better. Okay, so that one is a married one. So we wouldn't even use this tax one if this one said single. We're going to use a different tax table, but it does. Anybody know what exemptions mean? Okay, and I wouldn't have had any clue when I was in high school either. Exemptions have to do with how many people you're kind of in charge of sometimes. So like if I'm filing, then I might claim my husband as an exemption and my kids as an exemption. And the more exemptions you take, the less tax they take out. My mom claims like 17 because she wants to save her money. And then at the end, she always owes taxes. But before she started doing that, she always got a refund. But she was like, why are they holding on to my money and not giving me interest? And so she went to the claim 17. I'm going to put my money aside, gain interest on my money, and then at the end, I'll pay you what you deserve. So she's got a different strategy. I can't manage my money that way, and I don't ever want to owe the federal government like $3,000 because that's really hard to come up with. So I'd rather them take out parts of my paycheck. And that's what this is. This is the part that the federal government's taking out, federal income tax, each pay period. So that way, at the end of it all, you don't have to pay one big lump sum. Okay. So we're going to do a scenario that's similar to one that's in your assignments for this week. Okay. Says you've been asked by a coworker to estimate whether or not enough federal income tax is being withheld from your coworker's paycheck each month. Your coworker wants to know whether he will have to pay any money at the end of the year or if he gets a refund. And so we want to examine the pay stub, and that's going to be the one on the right. And you'll make an estimate of future earnings tax withholdings, as well as predict what the tax liability is. Do you know what tax liability means? It just means what you owe. Okay, so I owe the government something, and that's my liability. I owe them money. Okay, so these are the questions that we want to answer, and we're going to, I've got, so we want to know what the total pay periods are that are remaining, and total predicted annual taxable income, total predicted annual federal withholdings, and your tax liability, and those things. So let's go for the total pay periods remaining. What do you guys think? So we already discussed that it's bi-weekly. So how many more pay periods do you think are left? That's how many have been used up? Because we're in January, right? How many pay periods are there? Oh, are you thinking for January?
Yeah.
What about for the year?
Oh, for the year?
Yeah,
24?
super close.
23?
How many are there in what? How many weeks are in a year? Do you remember? Oh, Allie got it. There's 52 weeks in a year, so if we get paid twice, once every 2 weeks, then how many pay periods is that? 26, you got it. So we're going to do 26, and we've only covered one pay period in this one, so we're at 25. So there's 25 pay periods left. Okay, how can we predict the total annual taxable income? How do we do that? So B, the one in red. How do we predict the total annual taxable income?
Multiply however much tax they take out by 25?
That would, and I like that, because that's actually going to be for C.
Oh,
So what Miriam just said is she said you take how much they take out and multiply it by 25. That's going to help us get our answer to C. So where is our income anyway on our pay stub? We didn't even identify it. How much was our taxable income? So in other words, how did we find those numbers? What number do we multiply by 6.2 to find our Social Security? What number do we multiply by 1.45 to find how much did they get? Their gross income is also another way of looking at it. Okay, so that 800, we're going to first look, because sometimes there's things we take off. Like if I was paying health premiums, they don't tax me on that. So you take that out from your gross. But we're going to look at our gross and how much might we make over the entire year. And that's going to be our taxable income. So we can take this period and we can take 800. And we're just going to go ahead and times it by 26. And what do we get? So it's 800 times 26. Good, 20,800. Okay, and then how much are going to be withheld from our taxes? Or how much are they going to take out of our paycheck? If we go off of the pattern that they're doing so far.
How much does the federal income tax take out?
120.
120?
Yeah, and then how many times are they going to take that amount of it out?
52?
Nope, close though. So we're looking at $120 for each pay period. And how many pay periods are there? Has to do with 52, but they get paid every 2 weeks. 20, yeah, you got it, 26. So 120 times 26. And so what does that equal? 3120? Okay. Okay, so now we want to find out what's our total tax liability. How do you think we find that one? What do you think? Remember, what does tax liability mean?
How much you owe.
It's how much we owe. How do we find that liability, though? We have to go back to our tax table. And so I'm just going to make this tax table bigger. So if we make $20,000, where do we fall? Which line do we fall in? Yeah.
First one, 10%, no, 15%.
Well, we're going to fall in the second one because it falls within these two numbers, right? So then my tax liability is going to be $1,400 plus 15% of the amount over $1,400. So how do we do that? That one's a little hard. How do you do that? Anybody have an idea how to set that one up? So we know it's going to be 1,400 plus, how do we represent 15% as a decimal? 1.5. Nice. And then how do we represent the amount over 1,400 that we're going to do 15% on? I'm going back to my tax table. I'm going to do parentheses, and then we're going to take our amount. We're going to take our amount, whatever that amount is, and then we're going to subtract 1,400 from it. 14,000 highlight. So what is that amount going to be? Close, super close. You missed a digit though. So it's going to be 20,800 minus 14,000. And that made it harder to see. Has anybody got a calculator who can crunch those numbers? Oops. So in other words, in your calculator, you're going to do 1,400 plus 0.15 times parentheses 2,800 minus 14,000. Did you get something yet? Not what you expected? Oh, those ones are a little bit hard. So you may want to do a baby step first. So what would be your baby step? Do whatever's in the parentheses first. Yeah. So Allie, is that the final answer? Miriam, will you verify it? Okay, so I'm going to you get the same answer? Okay, so you're doing baby steps too. You doing baby steps?
Yeah, I already did that.
Oh, I think you times did it. Let's see what you got. I should have crunched it right, but it didn't.
I did get 6,800.
Yeah, so did I. But it should have crunched it right, but it didn't. Like what I see that you have, it should have given you the right answer, but it's not the right answer. Yeah. So what I want you to do is take 0.15 times 6,800. No, you gotta keep doing the baby steps. So 1,400 plus 15% of 68. Which is 1020. Did you get that?
No, I haven't put it in yet.
Okay.
What was I supposed to put in?
And then Allie, I think what you did is you have an extra 0 in your 14. So take 0.15 times 6,800. So it should be 1 or 2 or 2 0. There's 1,400 because it's 14%. Or it's 10% of 14. So if you look in my table, it's 1,400, not 14,000. Did you get? Yeah. And then we add 1,400 to that. Okay. So now this is, see, 20 for 20. So this is our tax liability. So what do you think that means? Let's look at E. It says a total federal tax owed refunded at the end of the year. So if these are our two special numbers, and 3120 was our other one. Did they pay more or less than they needed to? Yeah, they paid more. So what do we do with those two numbers? So we're kind of excited. We're going to get a refund. We're going to get a refund. And we're going to take 3120. Nice. You subtract them. What did you get, Allie, when you subtracted them? What did you get? Yeah, you got 700. Whoa. Okay, so we paid 700 too much, and you know what? The way to bring down how much we're paying is to change our allowances. So if we increased our allowance to our exemption to 1, then we're going to pay less, or 2, we'll pay less because we'll use a different tax table. But it's not that bad, in my opinion only. It's not that bad to pay a little bit more in your taxes because then you get a little bit more back. It's kind of, for me, it's like putting it in a 0 interest bearing account. What's hard is when you don't pay enough and then you have to come up with extra money and pay it. So cool. All right, so in our webinar and in the discussion that we have, I'm going to have the same scenario, but I'm going to put, what if she filed singly? If this person wasn't married but had filed singly and kind of had the same thing. And there'll be a different tax code up there. Cool. Do you have any questions, Allie? Okay. Totally meant to do that. Okay. I think we got what we wanted. Nice. Good job coming in. I appreciate it. Um, and then if you have any questions as you get your work done, let me know.